I still remember the first time I saw a star die. We were aboard the celestial Dawn, hovering in orbit around a red giant on the verge of collapse. The ship was a new prototype, a floating fortress of blackened steel and quantum-plated hull, built specifically for the project we'd come to call stellar soul harvesting. For years we'd tested containment units and refined our processes, studying stars like scientists might study cells under a microscope. But this was different. This time, we weren't here to watch. We were here to take. The moment of the harvest was tense. You could feel it rippling through every technician and scientist on board. I'd been the project lead for almost a decade, and even I was barely holding it together. The Celestial Dawn's array hummed to life, the containment field flickering with blue and violet light. A screen showed us the star's surface, molten and boiling in a final dance before its explosive collapse. "Containment field is stable, Dr. Thorne," said Samir, my second in command. His voice was tight, eyes glued to the console, tracking the energy output and containment integrity. "Good," I replied, my own hands slick with sweat as I tapped in the final codes. "Increase power to 85%. We're going to need every ounce of energy we can pull from the stellar core." The celestial dawn shifted as the gravitational waves of the star's dying throes pulsed outward, making our stabilizers whine and groan. The screen showed the red giant flickering erratically, its core beginning to implode inward. In those moments, it was as though the entire universe had paused to witness what we were about to attempt. "Engage the containment field," I commanded. With a hiss, the containment grid shot out from our ship, surrounding the star's core as it began to cave in on itself. Every screen in the command room flashed blindingly bright as the core collapsed, triggering a pulse of energy that hammered against the containment grid like a living, desperate thing. We were trying to trap an explosion powerful enough to incinerate planets, to bind it to our will like some captured beast. "Containment integrity at 73%, called out another voice. The tension palpable as we watched the readouts fluctuate wildly. Holding, 69%, 65%. The field was stabilizing, barely. Through the reinforced window, I saw the plasma swirling inside the grid, looking almost like a gigantic, burning eye as it adjusted to its new prison. The containment field crackled and hummed as it finally locked into place, trapping the star's dying core in a stable, pulsing sphere just a few hundred meters from our ship. A strange sensation washed over me then. It wasn't just the heat or the sheer power we'd harnessed. It was something else, like a presence, as if the star was somehow aware that it had been caught, twisted, and forced to yield its very essence. For a moment, I could almost feel it looking back at me, searing through the glass, alive in a way I couldn't explain. "Energy output is stabilizing," Samir reported, sounding stunned. "We're reading... I don't even know how to describe it. It's as if the core has consciousness." "Consciousness," I echoed, eyes still fixed on the screen. "Yes, or something close to it," he replied. "It's beyond energy. There's structure to it, like the core has a memory." It felt impossible, but I felt it too, a strange sensation, like whispers at the edge of hearing. It was as though the star was speaking to me, or perhaps into me, with ancient echoes I could barely understand. Suddenly my vision warped, colours brightening and pulsing in unnatural patterns. Sounds that didn't belong in this dimension played at the edges of my senses. The others around me seemed similarly affected. I saw them glance around in confusion, some holding their heads, others gripping their consoles to steady themselves. I felt alive, in a way that defied description, like every cell in my body was suddenly electric. It was as if I could feel the very atoms around me vibrating, charged with the raw force of the captured star. "Are you feeling that?" Samir asked, eyes wide. "Yes," I managed to whisper, struggling to stay grounded in reality. "It's like the star's energy is affecting us somehow." "Could it be the containment field leaking?" someone else suggested, voice filled with a barely contained edge of panic. I shook my head. "No, this is something else." We stood there, transfixed by the pulsing sphere, a piece of a dying star imprisoned in our containment field, its power thrumming through us. I felt as if I were standing on the edge of something incomprehensible, some cosmic cliff, looking down into an abyss of pure potential. And then, in a final pulse, the containment field went quiet. The energy stabilized, settling into a gentle, almost soothing hum. The entire crew seemed to breathe as one, as though waking from a collective trance. But something had changed. The hum wasn't just around us, it was inside us. My senses felt heightened, as though every wavelength of light, every tremor of sound was crisper, more profound. I looked at my hands and saw tiny wisps of light dancing around my fingers, flickering in and out, as though reality was somehow more fluid now, more malleable. The rest of the team looked equally affected. Samir was staring at his own hands with wide eyes, and the others wore expressions of bewildered awe, as if they, too, were sensing things beyond the natural world. "We've done it," I murmured, though I wasn't sure who I was speaking to, maybe just myself. We captured a piece of the universe itself. We took a star's soul. As I stared into that pulsing sphere of energy, I realized that it wasn't just a feat of science. It was something else, something we couldn't fully understand. The whispers at the edge of my mind grew louder, and I could feel the star's ancient energy embedding itself in us, weaving its way into our beings. We had crossed a line, transformed by the raw, cosmic power we dared to claim. And though I could sense the awe and wonder spreading through the crew, another feeling grew alongside it, an undeniable, terrifying hunger for more. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Earth's first interstellar skirmish broke the silence of deep space in a blaze of stars and shattered metal. Our enemies, an alien coalition known as the Andorian Accord, had arrived at the edge of our solar system in a fleet so vast it blotted out entire sections of the sky. They'd come to demand our surrender, but the arrogance in their envoy's voice suggested they expected it without question. The briefing room was tense, silent except for the rhythmic pulse of the containment unit at the center, a star compressed into a manageable sphere, pulsing like a heartbeat. This was our power source, our trump card, and our leaders had no intention of giving it up. The Council's voice echoed over the ship's comms. "The Andorian Accord has violated the boundaries of our system. Protocol Olympus is now in effect. Dr. Thorne, deploy the Stellar Guardians." Standing in that room, I felt the energy inside me thrumming in sync with the stellar core, my very cells vibrating with anticipation. We were no longer mere scientists and engineers. We had become something else entirely. Guardians of a cosmic power that defied explanation, beings infused with the lifeblood of stars. I looked to Samir, who now wore the armoured exosuit of a Stellar Guardian. He nodded to me, his expression steely but exhilarated. Together we had guided humanity to this brink, and we would see it through. A crew of scientists and engineers, we had been transformed by the very power we harvested. Our bodies strengthened, senses sharpened, thoughts elevated by the energy within us. We stepped onto the deck of the Celestial Dawn as the ship began its march toward the fleet. A soft hum filled the air, and with it I could feel the pulsing light of the containment unit synchronizing with my heartbeat. We no longer needed conventional weapons. With our control over the captured stellar energy, we were the weapons. The Andorian fleet loomed ahead, a wall of sleek silver warships and blazing plasma cannons. I could feel their commanders watching us, doubtful, probably thinking our defenses were a bluff. I almost pitied them. "Prepare the Stellar Lance," I ordered, the words feeling alien on my own lips. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed I'd say them, or that we'd have anything remotely like it. But here we were. With a quiet hum, the containment unit within the ship began to shiver, a faint glow emanating from its center. I extended my hand, concentrating. It took almost no effort now to channel the energy into what we called the Stellar Lance, a thin, focused beam of starlight that could cut through warship hulls like paper. As I focused, I felt the energy respond, building, roaring through me like a torrent. Then, with a thought, I let it loose. The lance streaked across the void, pure and blinding, a column of condensed starlight. It pierced the lead ship of the Andorian fleet, tearing through hull and shield as if they were nothing. In an instant, a section of their wall collapsed, detonations rippling outward as each piece of wreckage folded into itself, leaving only dark, silent debris. The silence that followed was profound, a stunned void as the remaining ships recoiled, systems flaring with desperate maneuvers. Their response was swift. Energy blasts filled the void, the Accord's fleet unleashing a furious assault. Plasma and missiles converged on us, warheads designed to shatter entire cities. But something had changed within us. I could see the attack, the blazing arcs of destruction, each burst moving slower than it should have, each trajectory as predictable as if I'd written them myself. I didn't just react. I reached out to the energy within me, felt it flow, and wove a barrier of light around our ship. The plasma blasts splashed against the shield, the shockwaves reverberating in brilliant cosmic colours. There was a moment of shock in the command deck, followed by a wave of exhilaration as the crew realised that we were truly untouchable. "We are not bound by your laws," I spoke, transmitting our words across the Accord's channels. My voice sounded foreign, almost divine. "Leave or witness the full fury of humanity's rebirth." Silence. And then from their formation, a massive battleship drifted forward. The Accord's flagship, larger than any vessel I'd ever seen, emerged from the fleet, its guns aimed directly at us. This wasn't negotiation anymore. This was an execution. "Prepare for annihilation," a voice crackled back, harsh and full of fury. The weapons on the flagship began to glow, charging for a blast powerful enough to vaporize anything in its path. I felt a strange calm settle over me. I'd become something more than human, yet still I was aware of our limits. We were not invincible. We were wielding a power beyond our understanding, and this would be a true test. But I was done feeling afraid. "Samir," I said, a faint smile creeping onto my face. "Let's show them what they've awakened." He nodded, stepping forward, his hands igniting with fiery tendrils as he channeled energy from our containment unit. The other Guardians joined in, each of us glowing brighter, our power reaching across the ship, blending together until we became a blinding mass of starlight. We raised our hands as one, focusing our energy, our very beings, into the centre of the flagship. A pulse built in my mind, louder and stronger with each second. It felt like the heartbeat of the universe, like a billion stars about to erupt at once. I closed my eyes, my senses expanding, feeling the vastness of our energy, the boundless potential that surged within us. And then we unleashed it. A wave of starlight, a supernova in miniature, surged from the celestial dawn, consuming the flagship and all that surrounded it. The void was filled with blazing light, a furious roar that echoed across space itself. The alien ship didn't just explode, it disintegrated, reduced to atoms as the energy of an entire star coursed through it. In the aftermath, there was only silence. The Endurian Accord's fleet drifted, stunned, the remains of their flagship glowing in scattered debris. Their comms flickered to life again, this time with a different tone, a voice full of fear, disbelief and awe. What are you?" I felt the answer rise in me, simple, undeniable and terrifying. I had felt the pulse of a star's soul within me, had become more than human. We had ascended. "We are the celestial pantheon," I replied, my voice echoing across the stillness of space. "And we are here to remake the galaxy." One by one, the alien ships vanished, their lights blinking out as they retreated into the darkness, the remnants of their fleet scattering like leaves before the storm. When the last ship disappeared from our sensors, I turned to the crew, feeling an overwhelming surge of energy, of purpose. This was no longer just about humanity's survival. We had been given the power to reshape the stars themselves, and the galaxy had seen just a glimpse of what we could do. For the first time, I saw my reflection in the black glass. My skin glowed with a soft, golden light, my eyes shining with something beyond mortal comprehension. I wasn't afraid anymore. This was the dawn of a new age, an age where humanity ruled as gods among the stars. I looked out over the galaxy, feeling its weight in my mind, my senses stretching across light years. I could feel the stars now, each one a distinct heartbeat, a silent pulse in the endless dark. I had become part of them, and they of me. We had not simply harvested energy from stars, we had taken on their essence, their memories, their will, and with it came the responsibility to shape this galaxy. The council chambers on Earth felt different now. We were no longer a gathering of humans discussing matters of science or strategy. The council was the celestial pantheon, and our presence cast a surreal glow across the chamber. Those who had harvested stellar souls glowed with an otherworldly light. It wasn't just a trick of the eyes. We radiated power, a barely contained force that bent reality around us. Is there any more resistance? I asked, my voice calm but amplified, resonant. The stars had changed even the way I spoke. A holographic display shimmered to life, showing the galactic map. None, replied Samir, standing beside me, his own form shimmering with the faint, constant glow of cosmic energy. The Endurian Accord has surrendered all claims and most major civilizations have submitted to our terms. I nodded. Then it's time to build. Humanity has more than earned its place here. Let's make sure it's worthy of the galaxy. As I looked around the council table, I felt the agreement ripple through the minds of my fellow Celestials. This was not conquest. It was a transformation. Planets once barren would be turned into flourishing paradises. Entire systems, once battlegrounds, would be peaceful havens of life. Every star system that had submitted would become a sanctuary under our guidance. And so we began. The Pantheon spread across the galaxy, each member of the council taking on the role of guardian, guide, and ruler in the star systems entrusted to us. I travelled to the edges of the Milky Way, to planets so far from Earth that our species' existence had been mere myth to their inhabitants. They received us with reverence, awe, even fear. But when I raised my hands and let my starlight flow, I felt their hearts shift. They believed in us. On the barren worlds, I summoned clouds of cosmic dust, watching as they shifted into heavy clouds that poured rain onto the parched ground. On worlds caught in endless winters, I reached out to their sun, coaxing it to burn just a little brighter. The soil beneath my feet seemed to hum in gratitude, each transformation an exchange of life. With each act, I felt the bond between myself and the galaxy deepen, as if I were merging not only with the stars, but with the fabric of the universe itself. It was late one night, on a moonlit field under 3 alien moons, that I felt it, a strange, ancient presence pressing at the edge of my mind. I froze, sensing something vast and aware beyond the stars, like a consciousness buried in the folds of space-time itself. I reached out, letting my own mind touch it, and felt a reply as clear as my own heartbeat. "We see you, Celestial." I recoiled slightly, an instinctive reaction I hadn't felt in weeks. This was not like the stars I'd harvested, or even the whispers of memories I'd gleaned from them. This was something older, something beyond our understanding. In that instant, I was back on the celestial dawn, surrounded by the other members of the Pantheon. Samir's face was drawn, his eyes fixed on something invisible but tangible in his mind. All of us, in that moment, had sensed it, the presence reaching into our thoughts. "It's like it's watching us," Samir murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," I replied. "It feels aware, as if it's been observing us since the beginning. But why?" A flicker of uncertainty passed through the room. Even we, beings who could shape the stars, felt the undeniable weight of this presence. I closed my eyes, reaching deeper into the shared consciousness of the Pantheon. As we focused, the presence became clearer, its form not physical, but somehow vast and encompassing, stretching across galaxies and dimensions. "You have ascended, but your journey ends here," the voice whispered, its tone ancient, almost amused. "We were once as you are, and we've watched countless others rise and fall." I felt my heart race, the thrill of a challenge surging within me. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice carried across the void between us. "We are the Progenitors," the voice replied, each word echoing like a tidal wave through the cosmos. "Once we too harnessed the stars, thought ourselves gods among mortals, but we learned there are limits, and you, little Celestials, are straying into forbidden realms." A hot surge of defiance pulsed within me. "We have shaped entire systems. Our reach spans stars, planets, minds. We are the Pantheon, divine beings bound by nothing." The voice only chuckled, a sound that seemed to vibrate through every atom of my being. "Then you are welcome to test your might." The connection severed, leaving a vast silence in its wake. I felt a weight lift, but a new certainty had taken root. A challenge had been set, and the Progenitors would be watching. The Pantheon moved quickly, gathering all our forces, aligning the energies of our star-forged weapons. We knew this was coming, though we hadn't understood why. Now, we did. Our actions had drawn the attention of those who came before us, beings who had already walked this path, and they intended to prove just how small we were. But if the Progenitors thought we would bow to their ancient authority, they had miscalculated. Days later, I found myself at the galactic core, the center of our power, surrounded by the other members of the Pantheon, each of us radiant with cosmic energy. Our weapons hummed with the light of countless stars, and our very beings were charged with the combined force of the souls we had harvested. I looked around, meeting the eyes of each celestial, feeling our shared determination. "The progenitors think they're above us," I said, the starlight in my voice carrying the resonance of defiance. "They believe that we'll back down, bow to them as if they're the true gods of this universe, but they are relics of a past that we will surpass." Samir raised his hand, his own voice fierce, unwavering. "We will prove to them that we are more than echoes. We are the celestial pantheon, and we were born to rule." The others joined in, their power and purpose blending with my own until we became a singular force, a wave of cosmic defiance. United, we turned our eyes to the heavens, preparing ourselves for the coming battle against forces we could barely comprehend. The progenitors had challenged us, dismissed us as children. But in that moment, as we stood at the core of the galaxy, we knew the truth. This universe was ours for the taking. We were humanity, reborn in starlight, gods of a new age. And we would show the progenitors that even they could be humbled before the might of the celestial pantheon. With a final surge of power, we launched ourselves into the abyss, a blazing storm of starlight and cosmic fury, determined to claim our place among the infinite.